Welcome back to the Museum of Obsolete Technology. In a previous episode, I pointed out that I had gotten a hold of this service manual for the Brunswick Model 15 radio, and it really is an invaluable source for people who are trying to fix or restore these things. In fact, this is so useful. I've scanned it, and I'm going to make a PDF of this available, and I'll put a link to it in the description of this video. But this is the most invaluable part of it. Is this drawing here shows all the connections and colors of the wires, and all of that will become extremely useful as we begin to restore the electronic parts, this time on the Moot Workshop.
Closely with research. This is a
big capacitor block is represented in the drawing by this here, and it shows the values of all the capacitors inside, but it does actually get one wrong. This one over here in the corner is marked in the drawing as 1.4 microfarads, but all the schematics I've been able to find show it as 0.14 microfarads, so they got that wrong. Watch out for that. And then the other thing it shows is colors of all the wires, which is kind of neat. As you can see, the wires are certainly not that color anymore, but I'm going to redo them. And one thing I really like is that the date is stamped on the side of the thing, which is always wonderful. Anyway, I'm going to use this medium density fiberboard to make a box to hang all of the replacement capacitors in. These little sleds I'm gluing together here are going to be the things that the capacitors are actually attached to. While all that glue dries, I'm going to run the metal enclosure for the capacitor on the wire wheel here to get all the corrosion off of it. And I'm going to clean the pitch off the inside of it with some naphtha. That pitch is everywhere. Anyway, now it's time to start putting it together. I really like the idea of restoring all of the colored wires to this thing. It not only will look good, but it'll make it easier to hook everything up. But I can't obviously be certain exactly what color they looked like, but I'll make them according to the color names on the drawing anyway. I'm not even 100% certain if they were solid colors or they were color stripes or what, because they've all faded to various shades of brown and gray. because I want this to look as much like the original as possible, I'm going to drill individual holes for the wires to come out in about the spot they were in the original device. Although the color is not the same, the texture of this insulating paper is very similar to the outside of the original block. So I'm going to cover the one end of this with that paper and glue it on with some contact cement. To keep it from rattling around inside the metal enclosure, I'm going to cover the top and the bottom of the box with some thin EVA foam, which I'm also going to glue on with some contact cement. Perfectionist me decided that just painting the end of this wasn't going to be good enough, so I'm actually going to fake the pitch that they seem to use for everything in this radio, once again with the ever popular black epoxy putty. I'm going to cover the whole top surface of this thing with this putty. And then we can smooth the surface with a wet fingertip. Now to get really anal retentive, I'm going to sculpt in some fake bubbles to better match the original. And as a finishing touch, I'm going to brush on some clear gloss to better match the shine of the pitch on the original component. And that's our capacitor block. Now we're going to turn our attention to the transformer. First I'm pulling the old fuses out. This second one, when I pull it out, it actually breaks in two, but that's okay. We're going to replace them. Now, before I cut the wires off, I went through and checked all these voltages to make sure the thing worked and to verify which wire goes to which connection. And I am going to replace all these wires because the insulation has gotten all mushy and gross, and I do not trust it. So just like with the capacitor, I'm going to follow the colors on the drawing from the service manual. And I have actually 4 colors of wire. I have black, brown, orange, and yellow. But there are more colors than that needed. So what I'm doing is, for colors I don't have, I'm coloring the yellow wire with colored Sharpies. And I know that's kind of silly, but it's stupid to buy an entire spool of, say, red wire just because you need 2 wires. And so I have green wires I need, blue wires I need, and I'm supposed to have white wires for one set, but I'm just going to substitute orange wires for that because I have that color and it's not used anywhere else. At least I'm going to do that for now anyway. These two black wires go to the power switch, and for those I need some connections at the ends. I'm going to crimp on these lugs and actually solder those as well. This connection seems to be a little loose where it goes to the rivet that goes through the wire on the other side. So I soldered that to make sure that we have a good connection there. Now we're going to address this nasty old cord. I need the grommet off the end of it, so I'm going to cut this to get that grommet. But we're going to have to replace the cord. So we've got this new fabric covered cord, which is actually longer than the original. The original is really short, like it was meant to just, I don't know, connect to like a ceiling like light fixture or something. But anyway, we're going to crimp some of those same sorts of lugs onto the ends of these wires and also solder those. And to finish it off, we have an authentic looking wall plug, which resembles the original but won't be a fire hazard. Now that it's all together, let's check all of the windings and make sure we're getting the right voltages off of each using my multimeter. These two wires here go to the power switch, so I'm just going to twist those together so it's turned on. I'm taping all the wires down so there's no chance of anything shorting against anything or each other. Now the first set of wires, the red ones, should give us about 2.5 volts, which looks like we're getting 2.7. And that is the filament voltage for one set of the tubes. The green wires should also give us about 2.5 volts for another set of the tubes. And the yellow wires give us 5 volts for the filament of the rectifier tube. And this last coil is actually has a center tap, which means that it's split, and between the center and one end we get 446 volts or so, and we should read the same thing on the other side. And obviously we'd read both of those added together if we hooked it up across both, but my meter doesn't go that high. This choke is going to get installed along with those other two components, and as long as I'm replacing wires anyway, I'm going to put the correct, according to the diagram, colors onto this choke as well, just so it all looks similar. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do before we start installing stuff is replace the rubber grommet that goes in the hole where the transformer wires come through. And then I'm going to reinstall the terminal posts on the back of the radio that the antenna and the ground wires connect to. Now it's time to install the big capacitor block. The interesting thing is that it shares 2 screws with the transformer, so I only have to put bolts in the front 2 holes here now, and then when I put the transformer in, it'll secure the back of it. Now I'm rethinking these wires. The original lugs are much smaller, and here's a lug that's a little bit more of that size. Now, these seem like they're going to be a little tight fit underneath the transformer, so I'm going to replace them with these smaller ones. These also seem to crimp on a lot more securely than those other ones. When I was testing the transformer, I was using some fuses I had just lying around, but these are the correct value. Now, as soon as I put this paper shield on here, part of it just broke right off on the fold line, so I'm going to go ahead and make a new one out of the same insulating paper I was using for the one side of the capacitor block. This is what it's really supposed to be used for. This is just a little bit thinner than the original material, but it'll definitely do the job. Now we can install the transformer, and I'm stuffing all the wires through that grommet. And sharp-eyed viewers will notice that I went ahead in my OCD kind of a way and painted those orange wires white with craft paint. In the upper left-hand corner of the screen, you can see the choke waiting to be installed, and you can see that I have replaced its insulating paper shield with the same insulating paper I've used for everything else, just so everything will match. And now I'll reinstall the metal cover that goes over the transformer. And there we go. Now we got all these colorful wires just waiting for things to be hooked up to them. And so we're going to work on those items next time on the Moot Workshop. If you enjoyed that video, please like it. If you're enjoying our videos in general, please let YouTube know and us know by subscribing to the channel. And leave comments on any of the videos that you like, and we'll try to reply if we can. We appreciate you watching, and we'll see you next time on the Moot Workshop.